Hello everyone, Travis here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are in the world of Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2, and we are building in the Mega Park. Obviously it has been a while, that should go without saying, so I won't say too much about it, but I just wanted to let you all know that I'm actually back now, more or less. I am starting a new job and everything, but I also just finished school. Assuming that my master's thesis gets accepted by the committee, I am actually done with my MFA and am now a working professional and whatever. Ideally, I would love to make some YouTube revenue at some point and just do that full time, but you know, we're not quite there yet, and that of course is my fault because I post so sporadically. But yes, I'm looking at getting back into a bit of a schedule. So I did a little bit of off-camera work, and by that I mean an entire coaster. So this is a B&M dive coaster. So this doesn't have inversions, and I know they normally come with them now. They didn't always, but so you know, not every currently operating dive coaster has inversions. But I could do some, you know, hackery here. But I was toying around with the idea. I originally wanted this to be kind of like Oblivion at Alton Towers. But the space that I needed to fill was just so much bigger than I expected when I started, you know, filling everything in. And I wanted it to take up a good portion of the space because, as you all are aware, I am trying to finish this park very soon. I've committed myself to finishing it this year, and I know that's been kind of like a back and forth thing, like, you know, will I ever actually finish it? I even thought for a while that maybe I wouldn't, and I would just keep it as an ongoing project that we revisit, but, you know, most people seem to hate that idea, so here we are finishing it. I needed something else in this area here. If you remember right, there used to be a wooden coaster here that was black and red, and it was just ugly, and the layout was terrible. But this coaster is going to be called Raven, which, you know, fits the color scheme and everything. I haven't obviously got around to doing anything with it yet, but I wanted to kind of show you the layout here. This is not necessarily hyper realistic or anything. I do think this would be possible to be built in real life, but they probably wouldn't, because in, you know, to today's standards it would be kind of boring. You know, not being able to do like MMNs and, you know, whatever elements that are commonly found now, you know, giant vertical loops and whatever. So yeah, I just don't think it would be built. The layout's kind of cool because it does like wrap in and around itself and through and whatever, and you do go into like the ground, which is similar to like how Oblivion works, and you know, I could imagine like smoke effects and it being real dark inside and whatever. But yeah, so this is what we've got here. And because I needed to expand this sort of industrial area, this is supposed to be kind of like futuristic industrial metallic kind of, you know, area. You have to remember that when this park was designed originally, there weren't going to be real themed areas necessarily, and that changed over the years to being actually very pretty hardly defined themes. Like for example, this coaster here is right back in the, you know, in what's becoming an alpine area, this kind of theme and stuff, and I'm using a little bit of like Tudor inspired, almost European looking architecture back here. Obviously, you know, more detailing is needed and whatever. The red squares are where flat rides are going to be. I think there's like 3 of them in this section, and then anywhere that I paint the ground like that, this like reddish sand color is where I put buildings. And it's just a rough sketch, like it'll probably change a million times before I actually get it done. I was also going to do some custom supporting on this coaster. I don't think I'm going to, because the way I was going to do it like requires a lot of little tiny pieces, and it's something I've used before, but not in a while, and definitely not in this park. And there's a couple of issues that I have with that. The first one is that well, it's a really big layout, so it would be tons of work. it also requires a lot of pieces, and this map is huge. I mean, we're over 200 by 200 for this, and the big thing about that is we're still locked into the old like limitations of the game, and so there is a maximum number of pieces that a park map, a save file will allow you to have, and I'm even scared to look at where that is right now, because if you look at like areas over here where like a lot of detail was put in, maybe not so much there, but a lot of the newer stuff, like you see the detailing in some of these buildings, we've got a lot of trim pieces and different things. I've obviously I've changed stylistically from the original intention of this park, that was not meant to be realistic at all to begin with, to my more kind of modern style where I'm using a lot of tiny pieces, everywhere. And I still have a lot of like buildings and stations and flat rides and stuff to theme. I'm adding 2 more hotel buildings over here that are going to match this style, and I'm also going to be putting another section of this building, probably a couple of like long skinny ones back here. So we're going to expand that, and then everywhere that's blank is going to eventually be filled in with foliage and whatever. And not that I'm doing a whole like lot with making the foliage look incredible in this park. It is pretty gosh, that looks pretty terrible. Actually, I may need to clean that up. But like the majority of the foliage is going to look like how it does over here, where it's kind of thinner and whatever, because I just need to make sure that we're able to fill in the whole park and get it done. And then from there, we're going to move on to something else, some other project that probably won't be nearly as big and demanding, so we can be a little bit more detail-oriented with that stuff. So that's where we're at right now. I am, like I said, trying to get this finished by the end of 2020, although I am moving at the moment, so that's going to slow things down probably at some point. But I do plan to get going on this. I had made some pretty decent progress, a month or so ago when I was posting more regularly. Finished this whole boardwalk area, except for this one restaurant that I need to put in. I updated the entry plaza. The other thing that I'm doing is I'm leaving in some of the older stuff. Like, I don't want it to be something that I go in and overhaul and whatever, because obviously when I started playing this, I wasn't at the skill level that I am now, but even still, I didn't, I purposely went out of my way to make it not, look detailed and realistic. This original entry plaza was quite a different thing. There was this terrible, limb launch coaster over here that, it just looked so bad. And it had like a red and yellow and white kind of theme, and so it looked like McDonald's. People called it that. And I remember when I built this entrance, I thought it looked so grand and so big and so incredibly great. And now it's pretty basic and standard, if I'm honest. And I've expanded that to attach to like the parking lot and stuff over here. This parking lot, I don't know, like some of the colors are a little bit wonky with these cars, and so I'm going to try to be making that look better, or maybe I'll be too lazy and not. These are going to be like the person that you pay, you theoretically you're going to drive in and pay someone to park and that kind of thing. And this is kind of, in my mind, like the VIP parking lot. There's probably, some other one that's like way bigger off here, that it kind of actually makes those not make sense. But anyway, so yeah, like we're very kind of like semi-realism with this. This is like, there are some backstage areas, like the storage room here, and like a little back walkway over here, and whatever. But at the same time, like, we have coasters with this kind of layout where you'd never see that in real life, and different things where it's maybe not the most realistic. Like this coaster, for example, has a pretty decent layout, except this element here at the end is something that I added just to be extra, you know, and you probably wouldn't have like a weird wonky dive into a brake run like that in real life. This would probably just circle around or something, you know. So yeah, I just wanted to give a status update. I know there's been a lot of status updates with this park and with the channel and all of that, you know, I just wanted to touch base with you all and get on the same page with everything. I actually was maybe going to build a little bit today. You know what? Actually, let's do it. Let's at least get a building or something in, so then I can, you know, not have so much hate in the comments, and we can actually make some progress. All right, so this is in that industrial themed area. Let's start by figuring out the pathing for this. You'll see that I'm only elevated above the ground 1 tile, so I can't actually have path go under that without digging down. Let's see, how do I want to do this? Let's go up and then down like this, and I'll have the exit come through there. I know a lot of you had said that this like real-time building thing isn't like your thing, but for today that's what we're going to be doing. I think what did I use there? So I used the darker blue one. Let's use that same queue, even though I mostly cover up the queues. And this one will definitely be covered up because this last little airtime hill, maybe not the hill, but definitely the brake run and this part of the building will be underground, or not underground, sorry, covered up by building. Because I... You know, the queue lines in Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 are kind of interesting. Whoops, I'm a total idiot. That's not sorry. I know some of you are cringing right now, like, why did he put queue line for the exit? Anyway, so the pathing in real life for queues, especially when you do like cattle penning and stuff, they're a lot narrower than this. I think that like the width of this compared to, you know, like the width of the width of the building is this, or like the exit is the same width as the actual station, which, I mean, obviously in real life, I mean, you're talking like probably 7, 8, 9 feet wide, you know, a good, you know, 3 meters wide probably. So like 3 or 4 meters is equal to, you know, 9 to 12 feet or something like that. And you know, basically the lane of a road. You know, this double width here would be a 2-lane road. So, you know, you could easily fit, you know, at least 2, maybe even 3 wide width of queue line on one width that this game allows. So, you know, that's definitely something that is a limitation of the game. You know, and Planet Coaster allows for varying widths of paths and things like that, but even their pathing system isn't great. So, you know, that's obviously something that is just difficult to do in, you know, this kind of sandbox style game form, if they can't even figure it out today. Planet Zoo came out with the exact same pathing system, so it's like, you know, they obviously need to figure that out. But it's like they're kind of toying, obviously games are in 3D now, but they're kind of toying with like things being on the grid, but then also like off the grid. But the way Planet Coaster works, for example, is like there's a main world grid, and then you get a grid for everything that is being built, but then you can turn on or off the grid depending on how you want, you know, whatever you're working on to look, or how you want it to look, or whatever. It's going to be a lot of black, red, gray here, so let's kind of do something a little bit different for this building, just because, I mean, we want it to match, of course. We want it to like be able to mesh well with the area, but we don't want, especially with an area this large, we don't want to have so many, because this station area is going to be in that same theme. This over here, anything I add in here, it's all going to be that same theme. So we need to make sure that we're varying it enough so that it doesn't get real samey. Because then when I turn this in to be voted on, everybody's going to be like, your buildings suck. Whatever. That's one thing. So, some people recently asked me, like, why I don't compete in challenges and things anymore, even like multiplayer like I used to do. The thing of it is, I don't have... It's more than just not having time, which is, of course, what I tell everyone. But it also has to do with the fact that it's stressful, that once you reach a certain level as a player, as a builder in the game, like, I guess people come to expect certain level of detailing and, design aesthetic and whatever from you. And if you stray from that, I mean, you get a lot of hate because of it. And not hate in the sense that, like, people are just mean and bullies, although some people are. It's just, it seems like with the capabilities of Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 and a lot of the builders that have come up in recent years, that it just seems that, like, the expectation for quality has changed quite a bit. You can't get away with some of the stuff that you used to be able to get away with, and like, sometimes we all just want to play for fun. Like, we don't want it to look super aesthetically pleasing and whatever, and that's not what we were going for, or whatever the case may be. But that doesn't matter. When people are voting on something, their expectations are what they are, and they've come to expect a certain level of detail from you specifically. And so then you'll get comments of like, well, this looks good, but I've seen you do better, or whatever. And I'm guilty of saying that to people too in feedback, but it's kind of unfair because it's like, you don't know what they were going for. You don't know, like, what their motivation behind their decision to do it the way that they did it, like, is. Like, you don't know any of that. So then you just come off looking like a hater, even though for me, I don't really care. Like, if I think that the stuff that gets submitted should be taken seriously and should be put under a little bit of a microscope. But you should also understand that sometimes that's not what people want. Like, that's not the goal, and just appreciate something for either what it is, or like the amount of fun that the player had in creating it. And that's something that, like, if I'm struggling to find something quote unquote good with an entry, like, I can almost always sit down and say, what, like, this isn't necessarily my favorite build from you or the greatest thing I've ever seen, but I think it's pretty clear that you had fun building it, or whatever. I just feel like sometimes I have sat down and have been like, what, I'm going to create something for this challenge, and then I end up being at a point where I'm not satisfied with whatever it is. And I've had stuff that was, like, close to finished that I've just abandoned because I'm like, no, like, no one's gonna allow this from me, and that makes it hard because it's like, sometimes I do want to I do want to just be casual with what I'm creating, or whatever. But that's the price I pay for ever getting quote unquote good at this game. And I always say quote unquote good because it's a very subjective thing. If we're talking scenario play, I'm not good. You think about Marcel, or someone who's able to really tap into, like, the algorithms of how the game calculates statistics and satisfaction levels for guests, and how to maximize the number of riders per hour to, like, make the most amount of income with it, and those kinds of things. Like, I have no clue, how that works. But then, if you want me to build a pretty nice looking building, put together a decent structure, then you know what, I probably can follow through on that for you. If you want a amazing, incredible layout, I'm probably not your guy either, because the truth is I don't care enough about layouts to spend hours upon hours upon hours making sure that it's like the greatest thing that anyone's ever seen. I think in a 20-year-old game, there are definitely some areas where we have to kind of like leave it up to the viewer's imagination. And so if it looks like it could be something, in real life or whatever, even if the layout itself is kind of weird and wonky, then I usually give the benefit of the doubt, unless it's a showcase park, which is what this will be. Roller Coasters and Friends Discord, which I helped found. I can't take full credit because there were others of us at the time, but that Discord link is in the description, and you can submit parks to the showcase, and the community will vote on them, and you get points and stuff depending on how well it scores, and you get points in the Discord based on those scores, and that allows you to have a certain rank in the Discord community. We did it based on the types of scenarios in the game. So like you start with beginner. Once you reach a pretty low amount of points, like you can get the beginner rank pretty easily, and then it's challenger, which obviously they were challenging parks. When in a scenario or whatever. But obviously we wanted to make it a noun, so challenger is what that translated to. But then it's expert, because expert parks. And then from there we had to, those were like the original ranks, and then we added master and entrepreneur and tycoon, and that's as high as we've gotten. There are some others that are in the server, but that just don't technically, like, no one has the rank yet. So definitely recommend the community if you're looking for something to do, but there's obviously multiplayer involved with it as well, and different other types of games like stats-oriented games on top of that, and then we have challenges. We have both large and small challenges, but they're called regular and mini challenges, and the difference is that just the amount of work that's required, and the points are slightly adjusted as well for those, but otherwise they're pretty much the same. Typically a mini challenge is going to focus on one particular ride, design a flat ride or design a wooden roller coaster and whatever, whereas a regular challenge is going to be much more of a small park at the end. When you submit it, it's going to be a major ride with a couple of smaller rides at the very least. And then right now we're working on Defunct, which is our version of the game Chopped. If you've ever seen Chopped, then you pretty much already know how to play Defunct. There's a set of tasks that are given, and each round a certain number of players get eliminated, and hopefully you do well. If not, you're defunct, you're chopped, if you will. So that's how that game works, and we're about to get ready to start the last the last cycle of that. Every season we do what's called, you know, like cycles, which is like a collection of rounds. So, you know, a season would basically, we play the game a couple of times, a few times, and each of those times is called a cycle. So, you know, we're getting ready for our final cycle of this season, and then it goes away until next summer. So if you're interested in getting on board with that, you still have time. Again, the link to that Discord is in the description below, as YouTubers like to say. Yeah, so this building is kind of candy-coated crap right now. It doesn't look that good, but it does fit with the style, I think. Needs a little bit more detailing, I would say. But you know what? Oh, and also I'm noticing myself saying a lot. Not that that's new. That's a habit that I've always had. Like my speech and debate teachers would, you know, be all over that. You know, your presentation was great. The information was quality information. Oh, but you said 20 million times, so I got to take off a letter grade or whatever. You know. I don't know if that's ever gonna go away. Is just a filler in our minds when we have gaps in the information that we're trying to say. And I know for me that if it wasn't that, it would be, you know, a string of swear words. I tend to curse like a sailor a lot of times. I was in the Army, so that definitely changed my vocabulary in a lot of ways. You know, if you're tired of the ums, you know, just turn on your music and shut me off, and then you'll see, obviously, at some point the screen will change, and, you know, the video will end, and you'll be like, oh, I guess it's over now. Otherwise, you know, thanks for hanging in with me. Especially when I'm multitasking like this, which is really hard to do. Gosh, I thought I had, there it is. I will say without even realizing it, or I'll be like mid-sentence, change what I was even talking about, and that's okay. Like, you know, those of you who are new content creators and whatever, and I feel like every time I take a long break, I fall into that category too, where I'm like tripping over my words and slurring my speech and, you know, whatever. But those of you who are just getting started, or even thinking about starting a YouTube channel or whatever, and you're worried that your commentary is going to be terrible and whatever the case, it probably is. Not gonna lie to you, but just know that that's okay. That it's something that even the best of us struggle with. Not that I'm the best YouTuber that exists, but, you know, whatever. I never signed up for this to be any sort of like full-time income oriented thing. As a matter of fact, I didn't even know, like, because I had signed up for ad revenue early on. When I started my channel, like, you could instantly make ad revenue. You know, that was just something that was automatically allowed, and so it wasn't until I got my first check that I was like, oh, wow, okay, I actually can, you know, make some money with this. And then, even then, it didn't really sink in, you know, that was actually happening, until I finally, like, I was at work one day and I was like, man, I hate it here, you know. And I thought, like, if I could do anything full time that I think that I would really enjoy doing, what would it be? You know, and I was like, well, working for myself. But I did own a business before, and even working for myself, I had to answer to the man, you know, city, taxing entities, and state and local, you know, like the health inspector had to come regularly. We had, you know, state laws and inspectors I also I was sort of franchised. I owned a supplement shop, so the brand of the supplement shop had to come in and make sure that we weren't selling products that weren't theirs, and and that we were in compliance with their guidelines on pricing and product placement and all that stuff. And I remember thinking, like, I work for myself, but I don't actually have any real say over what goes on at my own business. And obviously that business didn't work out. We didn't go under. We just decided, we reached the point where our lease and stuff came up for renewal, and we just decided that it was time to call it a day on that, just because we weren't happy with it. We weren't having a good time with it. Like, holy trash. Okay. So yeah, I was thinking at work a few years ago, like, was it a few years ago? Maybe like a couple years ago. What would I just want to do for a living? And I was like, yeah, I want to work for myself, but I don't want to have to, like, answer to anyone who has any real power and authority over me. Like, I really want to genuinely be my own boss. And right at that time that was happening, a YouTube check came in, and I was like, you know what, like, because I get YouTube checks every, like, 2 or 3 months, depending on video performance and if I actually post stuff and whatever. So it just so happened that I had one coming in at that time, and it reminded me, like, hey, this is something that, like, people actually do for a living. And I was like, you know what, I could do it too if I wanted to. But that's when I sort of, like, started thinking about potentially this being a source of income for me. And then last time we talked, my most recent, like, actual active period, I was like, yeah, I'm here full time now, guys. Guess what? You're going to get so much content from me. And that lasted, like, 3 weeks. And then I was like, oh, I'm busy again. My bad. Which wasn't untrue. I forgot. Not that I forgot, but I just, the demands of grad school kicked in like they had never before. And I realized, you know what, like, this isn't something I'm going to be able to do full time like I thought at the moment, because I just don't have time, and there was kind of I had also released a Patreon thing, which is probably in the description too if you're interested in supporting the channel or whatever, now that I'm quote unquote back. But I got kind of like a lukewarm response to that, and that's nothing on you guys at all. I only have subscribed or whatever it's called, become a patron on a couple of YouTube channels ever, so that's a thing. But yeah, so I forgot the little corner pieces. So what am I even saying? Like, geez, who can even follow this anymore? Oh, so yeah, it would be awesome for ad revenue to be something that that takes off a little bit for me. I don't need a whole lot, honestly. If I was getting $500-600 a month from this, that would be enough for me to go very, very part-time with my job, and potentially could reach a point where this could be my full-time gig. So if you can't do the Patreon thing, not that I'm even pushing that right now, because I don't know what that is going to actually do for people at the moment. The best way to support the channel is to just watch the videos. Watch the videos, let the ads play through if you can. I don't know how the algorithm works as far as like skippable ads versus ads that are mid-roll versus ads that can't be skipped, and what happens if you do skip an ad versus watching it all the way through, and those kinds of things. I really don't know. I imagine that if you watch an ad all the way through, that somehow creates more revenue, but then it's so like it's pennies anyway. So unless you were to binge my videos, like get a playlist of your favorites and just binge them every day, I'm probably not going to notice a huge impact from one individual. So boy, that sounds really like discouraging, but anyway. So we're going to go ahead and end it there. As you can tell, I'm going to cheat the trash too, by the way. If you have Open Roller Coaster Tycoon 2 installed, which I believe is really the only way to play this game anymore, I don't think it's easy to play otherwise. There's a great cheats console. I usually set the happiness, maybe even the energy to max. I don't really mess with the rest of those. In a big park like this, you give them all park maps. That sometimes helps them from being as stupid. Clear the grass, water the plants, remove trash, fix vandalism. Don't mow grass, because then all the grass will be mowed all around the park and it looks ridiculous. And then I usually fix all rides, renew all rides, and you can also reset the crash status if you want to, but obviously I haven't had any crashes, so whatever. But doing that, as you can see, it raised the park rating all the way to max, and all the paths are clear, the ones over here where we were working. All that garbage and stuff is gone. I know a lot of people do care about, guest happiness and park ratings and pathing junctions and issues and whatever, but in a park this size, it's like impossible. It's impossible to actually have a good layout and flow of the park without guests complaining about getting stuck and lost and all that stuff. So I just don't really care a lot. I cheat those things, and let's go ahead and save. And yeah. But anyway, I want to thank you all for watching. Give this video a thumbs up if you like what you see, a thumbs down if you don't. Subscribe if you haven't already. Leave me a comment down below letting me know of what you think of anything pertaining to anything. I don't reply to everyone, but I do usually read every comment. You have to understand I have several hundred videos on my channel right now that are receiving comments, on the daily almost. And so responding to everything can be a little bit tough. And depending on when you get to this video, I probably maybe, won't. Oh, look, guests are getting stuck or lost already. I'll do my best to reply. But just know that the information or whatever comment that you're sending to me is probably being read at some point. And I do appreciate the feedback, comments, concerns, issues, even the funny hate stuff that I get occasionally. But with that said, y'all have a great morning, afternoon, evening, night, etc., wherever you are in the world, and I will see you all next time.